With the first pick,
Thunderstruck! Thunderstruck! Yeah, Thunderstruck!
Welcome in to the Fantasy Rant podcast presented by Stadium Rant. I am Dan Baker, accompanied by Evan Gooding and Lee Cook. We're missing Mason this week, but we'll carry on without him. We got today we're going to be talking about our biggest hits and misses from our preseason takes. And of course, we're going to be playing the Wheel of Misfortune. In case you guys missed it, we tweaked the Wheel of Misfortune a little bit. We are going to do the same 4 rounds, one position each, but instead of one skip per round, each of us has 2 skips for the entirety of it. As a reminder, if you skip the next time you spin, you are stuck with that player. And then another little wrinkle we threw in, the player one of our managers here that lost last week, they're going to get the opportunity to steal from another team. If they steal from that player that had their player stolen is going to have one opportunity to spin, or they can take the player and just swap straight up with them. But after we move on to the next round, the next position, you cannot go back and steal a player from that position. So recapping last week, we got let's see here. Evan, you can take it.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start from the bottom and work my way up. And by starting with the bottom, I'm going to be starting with myself. So I put up a total of 28.8 points. Pitiful. You know, Taylor Henneke was leading the pack for me at QB, and he did not really lead any type of pack. It was 9.6 he put up there. I think he got injured mid-game, though, so we saw a little bit of Desmond Ridder back in there. Aaron Jones put up 9.4 for me. He was my pretty much best player at the position. Marquise Brown, complete dud, 3.8. Kyle Pitts, 6 points. So just a wash of a week for me. And this is actually my first L I'm taking on the wheel. So congratulations, guys. I really do think it was just a part of me wanted to make sure I got the steal. So we'll go there. But second place, we had Dan. Trevor Lawrence put up 4.1 for him. Ramondre Stevenson, 13.2. Chris Godwin, 9.4. Luke Musgrave, 8.4. Pretty much all solid performances outside of Trevor. Trevor was the big dud there. But you put up 35.1, still beat me by a good margin. And then third, we got Lee. So Baker, he put up a pretty good game, 19.32. Saquon, not great, 7.1. And you were stuck with him. You couldn't do anything with him. JSN, 9.3. He actually performed a little bit better than I think most people were expecting in here. I know you weren't too happy about that originally, but I'd take that over Marquise Brown, which I got. And we had Jake Ferguson at 12.6. You've been hitting on your TEs, dude. You have been hitting so far on the wheel. But that put you at a total of 48.32, and you were nowhere close to first place because Mason he dominated. He just completely crushed all of us.
And of course, he's not here for it.
Yeah, he's not here for it, of course. But Brock Purdy, took it away here for 23.84, highest performing player on all of them. Javonte Williams, another great game, but he didn't even need him. He already had the W locked in, and he put up 21 points. Christian Kirk, 14.4. David Njoku, 11.8. Cannot complain with any of those numbers. He just had an all-around great week. So congrats, Mason.
Yeah, even as a Browns fan, I was pretty surprised with Njoku's performance. Ravens have been a sound defense. Looking forward to that matchup on Thursday night between the Bengals and Ravens. Definitely going to be much better than last week's Thursday night football game.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right.
I'm just going to say I'm claiming victory since Mason is not here, and I was the high scorer.
Yeah, we'll put a little crown over on you.
Here to accept Mason's award is Lee Cook.
Yeah.
All right. So that's going to bring us into this week's Wheel of Misfortune. Just really quick, I did give us another opportunity. Every quarterback mentioned is going to have a wide receiver stack opportunity. Thought that added a fun little wrinkle in there. We'll see who we get. And we're going to be kicking off each position with our rankings on it. Lee, why don't you take quarterbacks?
Yeah, Dan. So, this was kind of tough for me. I spent some time. We've got a lot of studs here. You look at some of those tough matchups. Ultimately, at number one, I ended up going with Jalen Hurts. Kansas City defense has been really solid, but I think this is a revenge game from him losing the Super Bowl. The rushing just adds so much to his floor. The rushing touchdown. So I'm gonna go Hurts 1. I went with Dak at number 2 against Carolina. He's been lighting it up. The one thing with that is Carolina's run defense has been so porous that it could be a Tony Pollard week, but you got to put Dak up there. And then I really struggled on this third pick, but I went Joe Burrow against Baltimore, a tough defense. Seems like traditionally those games have been fairly high scoring. After losing to Houston, kind of feel like this is a must win if they're going to have any shot at the division at least. So I'm going Burrow 3. The rookie sensation, C.J. Stroud, has a great matchup against that Arizona defense. Look for them to maybe score some more points with Kyler in there, so maybe a little bit of a shootout, but going Stroud at 4. Josh Allen playing that tough Jets defense, but again, must-win situation. You have that rushing floor. We got a new play caller in there. We shall see. And then I went Lamar 6. He has just not been, even when they were winning and dominating, has not been the Lamar that we remember. I think he's had one really standout game all season. So it pained me to put him there because he's been a stud for me over the years and anybody that owned him. But yeah, Lamar at 6.
Whew.
Yeah, it has been crazy because Lamar's playing well, and he had a few good games at the beginning of the year, at least in my 6 point per passing touchdown league. 26 points, 28 points, 32. Actually had a good game against Detroit in week 7 as well. But since week 8, 13 points, 11 points, 17 points. And the one thing I ranked Lamar second because the Bengals are 31st against tight ends right now. So I think that they'll feed Mark Andrews. And with it being a divisional game, I don't think they're going to take their foot off the gas. So especially with that upset win against versus the Browns last week, I don't think they're going to be comfortable with any lead there. I think they're going to keep on piling on. Other than that, though, pretty similar. We basically had Lamar and Dak switched. I actually did put Joe Burrow at 6th as well, just because Baltimore has the toughest pass defense in the league. And on top of it, without T. Higgins, it does look like that is causing a little bit of a dip for Burrow right now.
No, I was pretty different from you here on this one. We were the same, 1 for 1. We both had Hurts number 1, but Dak is my last one this week. So I do not have a lot of confidence in Dak. It's just a matter of whether or not CD goes off, whether he goes off, and I just think that this is going to be a tougher matchup for him there. Joe Burrow had him almost at the end there too, next to Dak. So it's also weird, like putting Josh Allen, Joe Burrow at the bottom of a tier ranking here.
Right.
Guys like C.J. Stroud ahead of him. He was my number 2. And I had Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen kind of sharing the middle of the pack there, which was weird, really weird, but had to be done.
Hey, I mean, good as that Baltimore defense has been, hey, Dan, I mean, they made Deshaun Watson look like an NFL quarterback again. So.
Yeah, right. For the first time this season, outside of that Tennessee game, it was pretty crazy. I think he completed every pass in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, he looked decent, but outside of that week, Baltimore's been shut down across the board. Little bit worried about their passing options there without Higgins, but it does look like Marlon Humphreys might miss this game. So if Humphrey is out, that's going to be huge for Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow moving the ball. Well, let's get into it. Let's see. So Lee, you're going to be first up in terms of picking here since Mason is out. Let's see who you got. There we go. Joe Burrow. What are we thinking?
I'll take him.
There we go. Easy as that. Joe Burrow off the board. That puts me up next. Ooh. Ooh. My ranking does not have Dak Prescott too high. These guys are all pretty solid options. Man, chances are I end up with a better quarterback than I like, but to be honest, I don't think there's as big of a difference between these quarterbacks as we have listed for these other positions here. So I'm gonna roll with Dak Prescott. He's been on fire the last few weeks, so stay in the flames here.
All right, who do we got here? Lamar.
Does he take him?
Let's go head to head Thursday night. Come on, Evan.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna pass. He's the lowest on the what's left of my rankings here. I think I'm passing on Lamar.
Interesting. All right. Second spin. He only gets 2, so all
Oh,
right.
actually, Lamar was ahead of Josh Allen. Of course, Wheel. Of course. Of course. You caught me. You caught me. You called my bluff, and you caught me.
Hey man, like you said though, you could do worse than Josh Allen, even with a tough matchup against the Jets.
Yeah.
But this is going to lead us into our running backs. Right now, we got David Montgomery going against Chicago, Brees Hall heading to Buffalo, Brian Robinson against the Giants, Travis Etienne against the Titans, Devon Achane coming back from injury going up against the Raiders, and then James Conner heading to Houston. Right now, I have Montgomery as my number 1 running back here. Very much expecting him to get at least 1 touchdown, if not 2. If I'm a betting man, if I'm taking any guy for 2 touchdowns in the sports books here, Montgomery's my guy this week. I got Brees Hall against Buffalo. Brian Robinson is third, going against the Giants with that easy matchup. Travis Etienne against the Titans, and he's only that low just because the Titans are still a very tough matchup, 14th against running backs right now. Devon Achane would be, or Achane, Devon Achane. Still got to get used to that. That he's sneaky. But Devon Achane, if he wasn't coming off of an injury, he would be getting a little bit of a bump up here. But he's my 5th running back. And then James Conner going up against Houston. Right now, Houston, we've always thought of them as a bad run defense. On the season, though, 19th against running back. So that's 19th is the 19th hardest. So still bottom half on the season, but over the last 6 weeks, 11th hardest matchup against running backs. I think teams are finally having to throw the ball against them since their offense is putting up some points. So what any disparities? That word. Any differences in the rankings here?
I mean, I'm with you. I think Monty's number 1 for sure against that Bears defense. I'm taking Monty on that list over everyone. I think I would actually switch out Brees and Devon Achane. They just
Getting the
can't
big old
score
bump.
touchdowns. I would have Achane, second. I think this will come up in our next segment, or after we get on the wheel. But anytime he's touched the ball, he's just explosive. I think they work him back in and work him back in quick.
Okay.
No, I agree with that. Montgomery he was my second to last. If you take away that run he had, that long run for a touchdown, he had a shit week last week. So I don't know. I still think that it's Gibbs' backfield, and I think the transition has happened, and I think his time is almost over. But Brian Robinson was actually my big surprise here, who I had to rank number 1. I also am not afraid of Devon Achane. He was my third.
Right.
Outside of and in between that we had Etienne and Brees, and then James Conner wrapping it up. So we were all in agreement there, I think, for the most part.
Yep.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing of a return for James Conner. Might get a little bit more involved in week 2. We'll see how competitive that game is. If they can get into a positive game script, then I like Conner for more than what I have him ranked right now. Still, I think a very solid RB2 option. All of these guys are going to be started. And I agree. This is probably the highest I'll ever have Brian Robinson ranked in anything. Not huge on Brian Robinson as a talent, but that is mainly because I'm an Antonio Gibson truther to the death of me. All right, let's spin that wheel, see who we got. Man, that's tough. I got Etienne going up against Tennessee. Right now, he's my 4th ranked running back on this list. He's going to be fed. He's, I believe, RB3 on the season. Man, you know what? It's a safe bet. I'm going to take him here. I'm going to save my 2 passes for later. All right, and let's see who Evan gets up.
Who we got here?
Who we got? Who we got? All right, has a chance to put his money where his mouth is. What do you think, Devin Achane, going up against the Raiders?
I mean, he was my middle of the pack guy, but you know what? I'll take him. I think he's ready to go.
All right. Big play waiting to happen. All it takes is one for your week to pay off.
Ooh.
James Conner at Houston. He says, spin it again.
Run it again.
Let's see who we stuck with. That's pretty solid. You got your boy, Brian Robinson. As a Commanders fan, what is your fantasy take on him? And then what's your take on Brian Robinson as a talent?
Fantasy take. I think he needs to get the ball more. We've thrown the ball more than any other team. Some of that's been game script and being behind, but it's opened up Sam Howell. The sacks have lowered, but really not getting the run game established has put an already bad defense in worse position. Because even when we're scoring, we're having those quick drives. The addition in the passing game is the biggest thing that could really unlock him as a top tier, fantasy running back. It was the same play. I think it was a 51-yard touchdown and then about a 40-yard catch. So that was like 65% of his fantasy points were those two plays. But I think he's got soft hands. I think he's a adequate pass catcher. As a back, I think he's looked a lot better this year. Obviously, coming off of getting shot last year, he's a guy that the more he touches it, the better he seems to get. And I'm hoping that in the offseason we can add some offensive linemen that can make a little bit bigger holes for him. But I think he's the running back the rest of this season and all of next year as far as our dynasty perspective would go. And I have no problem playing him as an RB2, on any of my fantasy teams.
Right? Yeah, that's another tease there. A guy that we'll be bringing up later. Oh, hold on. Evan, did you not end up going with him? Oh, you would? Okay, you took another player. Honestly, if I didn't go with the player that I did, Brian Robinson would have been one of my biggest misses on the season. I really thought with that, with Bieniemy coming in, I thought they would utilize Gibson as a pass catcher a little bit more frequently, even though he's starting to get heated up a little bit, Gibson. But I really thought that Gibson would get more run on the ground and it'd be a little bit more evenly split of a backfield. But to your point, there's been times, like I'm watching the Browns play. Commanders frequently play at 1:00 as well. I'll see a catch on red zone, and I'm like, who is that for the Commanders? And it's Brian Robinson, and I'm always surprised with the hands he has for a back of his size.
Absolutely.
All right, Evan.
Yes, we got the wide receivers over here.
The wide receivers here. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we got to
Hold
read
on.
them off. Read them off over here, Antsy
through
Annie
'em.
over there. Now we got Tyler Boyd, Gabe Davis, Devonta Smith, Brandon Cooks, Noah Brown, Zay Flowers. So it was a decent group of guys. It was tough for me to kind of put these together, but for my rankings and the wide receiver rankings here, I got Zay Flowers number 1. I think that this is just he finds a way to get open. He's one of the most talented rookies, I think, out of this class too, and that's kind of self-explanatory too. But I don't really love the matchup, but I think that there's going to be pretty high scoring, and they need somebody other than Mark Andrews to show up, and I do expect Mark Andrews to show up as well. Number 2, I had Devonta Smith, another tough matchup, but he's one of my guys that I own good shares of, and I love him too. So I think that he's good to see a little bit more of an opening, and I think more of the attention is going to be on AJ Brown, as it should. Then I got Tyler Boyd ranked number 3. Seeing since T is out again. Oh, who'd have thought that T misses a game? I don't know. Nobody would have guessed that. This guy did. But Tyler Boyd's a great fill-in guy, and I think he's also one of the reasons why I was so low on T. Higgins too. The next up is somebody who's a big surprise to me, Noah Brown. I would not have thought we would be putting him on the wheel at all this year, and here he is, just huge performance. I think Liu actually brought him up on the waiver show, which he's a great waiver ad for people he's going forward. And Gabe Davis is going to be my second to last there. He's just so boomer bust. I'm not going to trust him as something as important as the Wheel of Misfortune here. So And Brandon Cooks is going to be taken away at the end. He's my caboose. There's just too many weapons on the team, and I think he saw a lot of opportunity last week, and I don't expect that to continue going forward though.
Yeah, but I'm almost completely aligned with you. I do have Devonta Smith as my number one, especially with Goddard being out and a shootout against Kansas City. One of the reasons why I have Jalen Hurts as high as I do. I think it's going to be a shootout, even though both sides of the ball have great defenses. I think Devonta Smith is going to be heavily utilized. And then the only other disparity I had was I have Brandon Cooks as fifth and Gabe Davis as sixth, but both have tough matchups and both are incredibly boomer bust. So
Yeah, I'm very similar. Really, the only difference I had Zay at 3, Boyd at 1, and Devonta. Pretty much everything else is exactly the same. Boyd eats when Higgins doesn't play. I'm looking for this Baltimore Cincinnati game to be a bit more high scoring than what I think a lot of people are thinking it's going to be.
yeah, no, that's totally fair. Last week, Boyd, 12 targets, 8 receptions for 117, and he dropped a game-winning touchdown. So could have been an even better week for him there. I have 0 shares of Boyd personally, but I think it's a great call. That's why I have him third right there. But yeah, let's see who Evan is going to take here. Still has that steal in his pocket too.
I do, and if I don't get
Oh,
my player here, I think I'm going to use it.
Tyler Boyd, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking I'm passing.
Passing on Boyd. All right, Lee, you're up next.
Give me Boyd.
Ooh.
No, I wanted him.
I'll take him.
I'm assuming you're rolling with them. Yeah, Devonta Smith going up against KC is Lee's pick here. That leaves. I got Tyler Boyd against the Ravens. I'm gonna take him again.
Ooh,
Humphreys
man.
being out. Boyd was my third. I already Devonta Smith's off the board, so only Zay Flowers was higher ranked for me.
Yeah, if I don't get Zay Flowers here, say goodbye to Devonta Smith there, Lee.
Hey,
let's go.
ask and you will be rewarded. All right, Evan got Zay Flowers just as he commanded the wheel to give him. He's got some kind of sway over here over this wheel. I don't know what collusion's going on here, but all right. Oh, and we never brought up Evan's beautiful face. Look at that on the wheel with a big old
My
L.
first appearance on the
Love
wheel.
that.
My first appearance. Lee, you're coming.
Yeah,
Don't
we
wait.
got to
Don't
bring
wait.
it up. You got to bring it up. Look at that pretty face. All right. So for the tight ends, Lee's going to kick it off for the rankings here.
So, yeah, I felt a lot better about these than the quarterback. To me, I think it's pretty black and white. Give me Sam Laporta versus the Bears as my number one pick. He's been consistent all year. Bears defense is not good. He's a guy that I'm targeting right now in Dynasty, trying to get some more shares of. Trey McBride at 2. He's been a target monster the last few weeks. And now with Kyler back, Houston matchup, a game that could be a sneaky shootout. Give me Evan Ingram at 3. Tennessee's got a good run defense, but we've talked about it. They're a bit of a pass funnel. Ingram is that safety blanket. It's really him and Kirk that are getting a majority of the targets. So give me Ingram at 3. I went Logan Thomas at 4 just because of the matchup, but hopefully the game script calls for a lot more running and we're up early, but I could definitely see Logan having 4 for 55 and a touchdown. Went Cole Kmet versus a tough Detroit defense. This could be Justin Fields' week back. Still not sure. I think if Fields is playing, I probably bump him up over Logan Thomas, but just not sure right now. And Pat Freiermuth at 6, coming off an injury, playing the Cleveland defense. I want no parts of him.
Yeah, we have a little bit of changes or a little bit of differences in ours. I do have Trey McBride number 1, just because, like you said, he has just been getting targeted like crazy. So much so that it ate into Hollywood's production last week. Over the last 3 games, 14 targets, 5 targets, and then 9 targets, 25 points, 5 points. And again, that game when he had the last 3 weeks, The second matchup where he didn't perform well, that was against Cleveland. Cleveland, by far, number one against tight ends, held Mark Andrews to 2 catches for just 20-something yards, I believe it was. So, tough matchup. That's why I also have Freiermuth ranked last. But, yeah, it goes McBride, Laporta. I have Cole Kmet because he's actually been performing under Bagent. I can't remember his name fully still. Tyson Bagent?
Bagent, I think.
Bagent?
I don't know.
Teabag. We'll call him
Whatever. Teabag. That's right.
Teabag. That's right.
Yeah, that's his only name. At birth, out the womb. What do you want to name this baby? Teabag.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, I got Kmet ranked at number 3. Detroit's actually 26th against tight ends. Otherwise, I mean, there's no other world where I would have Kmet ranked over Ingram, but Tennessee is second against tight ends, only allowing half PPR points per game. And then I got Logan Thomas and Pat Freiermuth.
Dude, I was almost the same as we're all really, really close here. I just had
Yeah.
Trey McBride and Sam Laporta flip flop, but they're so close. And I had Trey going number 1 as well, Dan. Then I had Evan Ingram ahead of Cole Kmet, and Logan Thomas, Pat. Yeah, dude, we were very aligned there.
Our 1s and 2s are all the same. Our 3s and 4s are the same, and then 5 and 6 are the exact same. So, all right.
Quick question before you spin, just asking you guys your thoughts here. Dynasty question. Laporta or McBride for Dynasty? Who would you rather have?
Laporta.
I'm going to stick with Laporta. He's just looked so great over the first few. And Jameson Williams just doesn't look like he's going to take that next step up. It may be a step up from what he's been doing, but we have yet to really see him emerge. And until they show that they're going to go after another wide receiver, and obviously they're a good team, so they're not going to have a high draft pick next year. Whereas the Cardinals, I do imagine that they extend Marquise after this year. He's in the contract year. But then they have their own pick as well as the Texans pick. So likely their own pick's probably going to be at least top 5, top 10. Houston's pick probably top 20 at least. I see them adding at least one other wide receiver through the draft.
I agree. I'd go Laporta, but I think it's gotten really close, and those guys are highly valuable dynasty assets going forward.
I don't think it's as close. I think that, Trey McBride took a while to get to where he's at right now. When somebody like Laporta comes in and just sweeps targets away and just becomes an absolute, production machine, I think that's something you can't shy away from. You got to. It's going to be like that going forward for him.
I don't blame you there. Outside of one game, though, I mean, even then, he only had 4 receptions off those 11 targets. The most receptions he's had is 8 against the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
McBride, in his when given the opportunity, finally, I don't know why they were playing Zach Ertz for so long, but as soon as he got the opportunity, he's running away with it. And it seems like in this Cardinals offense, they're hyper targeting the tight end position. But I do think that it's still to each their own, I wouldn't sneeze at anybody doing taking a McBride over Laporta, but I'll stick with Laporta. All right, Lee's first up for the tight ends here. I think we all got one skip left at least. Evan Ingram against the Titans.
I'm gonna skip him.
All right.
Good skip. Good skip.
Going for one of the top 2 guys.
Ingram. Oh, that's a hard pass for me here. I got Pat Freiermuth against Cleveland. Not looking for that at all.
Let's see what we got here. Oh.
It's hard to tell. Cole Kmet against Detroit. So close to Sam Laporta.
I'm going to skip as well.
All right, we all skip. Evan still got his steal, though.
I'm hoping one of you guys land the top 2 guys, and then I'm going to take
No! I got – oh, no, that's Lee. Haha. There you go, Lee.
Yeah.
I thought I was stuck with Pat Freiermuth. Lee's hoping the Muth gets loose. Luth.
Still him, Evan. Come on. Still him.
Oh, man.
You better hope I land on Sam Laporta here, Dan.
I do hope so. All right. At least I'll get a spin there if you steal them from me. I got McBride against Houston.
All
Evan
right,
gets.
take Evan Ingram out. And I'm taking him. I'm taking your Trey McBride.
Oh man, you said you're taking him. I thought you might have been talking about Evan Ingram. I thought I
No,
might get
well,
away
yeah,
with
I have to
one.
take Evan Ingram. He's already selected. He's my second one, but I'm
And you know
stealing.
what? I do
We could get
have
Sam Laporta here. The wheel could be fortunate.
right, but I could also get Logan Thomas.
Or Cole Kmet.
I'll take Evan Ingram. That's fine with me. I'll stick with Ingram. You got Trey McBride. All right, so that is going to conclude the Wheel of Misfortune here. All right, so kicking it off for our hits and misses, we broke it up into two categories for each. Our hits are people who we did not think are going to perform well at the value that they were being drafted as, and then other side of the hits, guys who we thought were going to be sleepers, values, and are outperforming their ADP. And then misses, pretty much the same thing here. Guys who we thought were going to really take off this year and have been underperforming. And then guys who we really didn't expect to perform as well as they have so far through the season. For the first one, I'm going to kick it off to Evan, who you got as your hit.
All right. So we got my hit here is going to be my underperformer at value is what we're doing first.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
All right, my underperformer that I got going for or that hit was Elijah Moore. You know, he was very, very highly touted this year and the offseason. And, you know, the trade at the draft capital, a lot of it, you know, led to a belief of a lot of opportunities. But I saw through that. I did not call. I called bluff, and I was right. You know, ADP had him drafted in the 13th round, but most leagues I'm in, he was drafted 3 rounds ahead earlier in the 10th. Those are alongside guys like Dalton Kincaid, Tua Mostert, you know, Jalen Warren, Jaden Reed. And, you know, right now he's ranked number 59 on the year. So I would take all of those guys over him. And it's just a big miss on my part, on, you know, the general consensus is part, in my opinion. And I called it.
Yeah. I mean, even as a Browns fan, I was skeptical of him like actually breaking out. We had seen a very small stint of it in his rookie year, and then the Jets decided, even with the lackluster wide receiver core outside of Garrett Wilson, that they weren't going to utilize him. And there really wasn't anybody else to compete with there, and they still decided we don't want this guy being a big contributor in our offense. So I was also a little bit skeptical with his ADP and the 11 leagues that I play in. I do have one share of had one share of Elijah Moore. Quickly got him off the team after a few weeks there. But the combination of Deshaun Watson not taking the step up that I think a lot of people expected him to, and the Browns defense not really making the Browns have to throw that frequently. They can still rely on the run game and that defense to get the job done. I agree with you there. I wasn't too high on Elijah Moore, and I'm glad I stayed away from him in most leagues.
Yeah, I concur as well. I'm 17 redraft leagues. I have 0 shares. I
There
may
you
only
go.
have him on like 1 or 2 54 out of my 54 best ball leagues. I'm just shocked over here. I'm still recovering from the shock that Evan didn't say T. Higgins. That's where I'm shocked about.
Me too, man. I was waiting for
I
the T.
can't keep
Higgins.
bringing him up. I have my Justin Ross guy. Scratch him up, Justin Ross. But you know, I can't keep hitting the nail on the hammer with the nail on T Higgins. You know, eventually you guys are just gonna have to come to realization yourselves.
You're ridiculous, man. Every time he's actually healthy, he's amazing.
That's the
He's
problem.
got to be
That's the
healthy.
problem.
That's the problem. All right, that'll take us to our next hit. A guy that you thought would underperform and is Lee. Kick it off.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty obvious one, but I was out last year. I again a guy I have 0 shares of. His ADP fell, but he was still getting drafted too early, in my opinion. Kyle Pitts. It's a run first offense with a horrible quarterback. Um, the guy has all the talent in the world, but until he gets into a different situation, I want no parts of him. I just, Arthur Smith is the villain of all of fantasy football, and you
Yep.
combine that with just the lack of a passing game, the run commitment. He's a guy who has consistently underperformed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the most frustrating part is I think that Arthur Smith takes pride in being the villain of fantasy football. Uh, but it's like there are situations where fantasy does not correlate to real life, but fantasy
Sure.
production is offensive production. And for whatever reason, Arthur Smith refuses to be efficient through the air, to take chances with his top 12 first round drafted players, like ev- Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and Drake London, all drafted in the top 12 picks, all incredibly underutilized. It makes no sense to me, but I don't see it changing anytime soon. And I agree, especially with where Kyle Pitts was being drafted, it even dropped from his first couple of years here. But Fantasy Pros has him as the 59th overall pick. So that is the 5'11, I believe. And it's just that's way too early for a guy that has shown no consistency throughout his first 2 years playing and has continued to show no consistency in his third year.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm total agreement, especially with the arch nemesis Arthur Smith. If that guy gets a rookie quarterback that's promising, I will be. I swear, NFL script writers, I will find you. I will find you. Figure out what to do. Equal punishment is deserved. But I don't think I have a share of Kyle Pitts here. I might have one, but he's not in any of my lineups ever. So
Yeah,
I definitely called this one too, and totally agree with you there, Lee. Great hit there.
for sure. All right, and that'll bring up the player that I did not think was going to perform well and has not. It is Christian Watson. Uh, my main concern was that he had a 4 game stretch of insane production, and that was riding on the back of 7 touchdowns over those 4 games. Obviously, had Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball during that time. In that 4 game stretch, 6.5 targets per game, 3.75 receptions, and 78 yards through the air. Outside of those games, in the other 10 games that he played, 3.9 targets per game, 2.6 receptions, 29.8 yards, and no receiving touchdowns. So when players were drafting and looking at the entirety of the season, they saw the overall production, the touchdowns there, but really that all came in a small 4 game stretch. Another thing that kept me off of him, one of my favorite tools when I'm assessing wide receivers is reception perception. Matt Harmon does a great job of charting wide receiver success rate completely independent of quarterback performance. He's not looking at the targets thrown their way. He's just looking at how often they have success rate. And Christian Watson is not a separator. He had a 33rd percentile success rate against man coverage, 37th against zone, and 47th against press. It's not what you're looking for from your wide receiver one on any team. And then on top of it, I didn't necessarily see this coming, but the red zone splits are ridiculous. Right now, Romeo Dobbs, he has 13 targets in the red zone. Jaden Reed has 11. They've each caught 7 of those targets. Christian Watson has 1 reception in the red zone on 6 targets. He has 1 yard. It was a 1 yard touchdown. I believe it was in his second game back from injury this year. Outside of that, has done nothing in the red zone. Dobbs is second in the league in terms of wide receiver touchdowns inside the red zone with 6 touchdowns, 3 going to Jaden Reed. I think this is going to stay consistent. I think that they don't think of Christian Watson as that guy outside of a field stretcher, outside of a guy that can break off the big play. I think they're going to use him in the red zone. And then on top of it all, Jordan Love, I'd never had a lot of faith in him. And he's been pretty inconsistent. Hot start, but very slow continuation since then.
Yeah, this one
Yeah,
I got lucky. I didn't have any shares of him because I was higher on Christian Watson. I was. I think main reason I wasn't, drafting him that much is because I knew Romeo Dobbs was going to be available late, and I do like Romeo a lot too. They're not that far off in my rankings, but yeah, Watson is huge disappointment this year. I'm also a believer in Jordan Love. I have to be because I'm a shareholder as well. But yeah, no, he's a big surprise for me. I thought he would be doing a lot better than he's doing right now.
Really quick before I kick it to you, Lee. I failed to bring up his ADP. He was 507 in drafts this year, and right now per game he is wide receiver 69 on the year, 7.2 points per game. All right, sorry, Lee. What did
Oh,
you have to say about Christian Watson here?
you're good, man. I appreciate you adding the context of the numbers. Yeah, I was more on the island with Evan. You made a good call on that one. To me, the big thing that stood out was that those four big games all came later in the season. You see a lot of rookie wide receivers break out late in their rookie year, and that continue on. Also, just the lack of other targets. I figured that he would be a target monster, or at least, averaging a solid amount of targets every game. I do think, I mean, obviously the injury has held him back. Jordan Love has held him back. I'm not ready to give up on him yet as far as a career goes. I wouldn't mind getting him cheap as far as dynasty. Um, who knows? They've got an out with Jordan Love, so who knows what the quarterback situation is, and they don't have a lot of standout guys to take targets. Dobbs is a good possession guy, but he's not really a game breaker. So, I don't want to be starting him. I don't want to be playing him in redraft or playing him in dynasty. Over this stretch at the end of the season. But I think a comeback is definitely potential or in the cards.
I do agree with you as far as dynasty buy potential. With overall disappointing season so far. Let's what do you guys think? Where would be your limit on where you would be willing to buy Christian Watson? Because he is young, he is a physical talent, like no doubt. Size, speed, score off the charts. But Jaden Reed's looking great. Romeo Dobbs is solid. Luke Musgrave's even like a decent tight end. So, what would you guys be willing to spend to get Christian Watson on your dynasty team?
Late second.
Yeah, I'd do a second too. I'd do a second. It could be even a little bit earlier for me too, but I would trade a second for Watson. But in terms of player value, that's a real tough one. That's a real tough one.
Right? Yeah, player value is very tough. I agree with you though, Lee. I would go like mid to late second for Christian Watson. Anything higher than that, I'm gonna take a safer bet elsewhere. But it'll be interesting to see how they go forward with Jordan Love. They did extend him for his 5th-year deal or 5th-year option. So he's there through 2024 if they want him. But after June 1st, he can be cut for 5.5 million. So they could move on from him. It's not without question. So all right, that's gonna take us to our next. Let's go with our underperformer, our miss that was an underperformer so far. Evan, we'll send it back your way.
Oh, this one makes me so sad. So sad because I grabbed so many shares of him. But Damian Harris. I went zero RB and had him as my RB2. So having Damian Harris as an RB2 with not that much back to replace him with was big mistake. Big mistake. And I really expected James Cook to really either just be more involved in the passing game and that not too much in the ground game. But Latavius Murray signing really hurt his value. And he's getting injured. So, I mean, but even as injury aside, he wasn't producing. He wasn't getting the work that I expected him to get to. And I drafted him I'm in 8 leagues. I think I drafted him in 3 or 4 of them. So it was a big hit.
Big miss.
Or big hit down. They hit me. I got
Okay,
beat up.
got you. Yeah, because like it, where he was going, according to Fantasy Pros, his ADP was the 1404. So like I can see you taking some last round chances on Damian Harris, and for you to call him a miss, even with him being that late, is it's telling, But I agree that he had. I thought he would be a solid goal line option, touchdown dependent, but yeah, I see what you're saying there.
Yeah, I'm with you too, Evan. He's somebody I was higher on than the ADP. He felt like a good late round flyer for a running back that could get a lot of goal line carries in a really efficient offense. the Josh Allen threat notwithstanding. I mean, what are we, 2 years removed from double-digit touchdowns in New
Yep.
England? He felt like, and they they brought him in. They gave him decent money for a running back.
Mhm.
The Latavius Murray signing was a huge red flag. Definitely made me, any of my later drafts, I kind of stayed away after that. But before that, I was definitely, I had quite a few shares and got out. Within a few weeks, he was on the waiver wire.
Sweet. All right. So we'll kick it to Lee for your underperformer that you missed on.
This one hurts. This one, way too many shares of. He's a guy I really thought that there was an 8 quarterback tier, and I thought he was number 8. He was the most affordable. I thought Trevor Lawrence was primed for a breakout. The way he finished last season, getting Calvin Ridley back, so many weapons on that offense. Kurt, Jones, Ingram, Etienne, and he has just been god awful. He's not startable at this point. And the weird thing is the Jaguars, outside of just getting skunked by the 49ers last week, they've played winning football. Part of it is all the touchdowns seem to have gone towards ETN, but he has just not taken that step forward like you would hope. I heard a stat. It was it C.J. Stroud? It was the first rookie quarterback to have 3 straight games of is 350 or maybe 300 yards. But Trevor Lawrence has only had one of those in his entire career, and I want to say it was
Yep.
350, but that was
Yep. I heard
just
the same thing.
shocking.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Even in the leagues again where it's 6 point per passing touchdowns, he has one game above 20 points. Technically 2, but it's 20.06 points. So not performing to where we thought he would. Calvin really didn't take the next step up. So disappointing year for Trevor Lawrence, being one of those later round guys that could still give you top end QB1 performances.
Yeah, I had some shares of Trevor Lawrence too. He hurt me too, Lee. So I definitely fell for the trap there as well. In one of my leagues too, I had Anthony Richardson as my backup, and then Kyler Murray too, just in case something happens for like bye weeks or anything. And I don't know I didn't know what to do, and I'm not. That's like one of my worst leagues right now too. So definitely on the struggle bus, and he's the cause of that. That's really the only cause. The rest of that team is pretty solid, but if you don't have a good QB, you're really not a contender.
Right. One thing real quick. I heard somebody call him Lord Farquaad with the hair. That had me busting out laughing. Oh, man. All right. So my player that I missed on that's underperforming right now, Tony Pollard. I really thought that with the opportunities given to him, that he would be a top 6 running back this year. Just has not been performing. Even with the easier schedule upcoming, I'm not confident playing him as anything more than an RB2 right now. And that's even with all the injuries that have happened throughout the season. He's just been pretty inefficient. And I expected him to drop a tiny bit in efficiency, but with Zeke leaving back 231 rushing attempts and 12 rushing touchdowns, even if Tony Pollard took that, let's say 25% of that, added it on to his stats from last year where he was RB8 last year, I was expecting huge things from him, but he's not been efficient. 3.9 yards per attempt on the ground. That's 26th in the league. He's got 135 attempts, which is 7th, but he's only forced 12 missed tackles over the course of the season, courtesy of PFF. For those missed tackles, that's 35th. 2.7 yards after contact, that's 29th. And these are all based off of running backs with at least 50 rushing attempts. So 2 rushing touchdowns, none in the receiving game. He is getting some passing work, but even there, he's really inefficient. Yards per reception, 6.6, which is 33rd. I just was expecting much bigger things. You always know that Cowboys are going to have at least a competent offense, but he hasn't been performing like that, and it's probably my biggest miss of the year.
Yeah. Thankfully, I stayed away from this one. I went 0 RB in a lot of my drafts, so didn't have to worry about Tony Pollard there. He was way too high ADP. And, my reasoning for staying away, though, was completely wrong. I thought that Deuce Vaughn would see some work here and kind of limit the work that he would see that Zeke leaves behind. But there's no Deuce Vaughn involved, and he's still not performing. He still sucks. So he had a great start to the season, but hopefully it got him off your team or was able to trade him before any of this is going down now.
Yeah, I'm a
Sure.
natural Cowboy hater, and that probably colors my lenses in drafts more than it should at times. But I feel a little bad even last week saying, as a buy low candidate, I really expected that breakout game against the Giants. All those
Same.
points they scored and no touchdowns for Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
Sorry if you listened to me and you bought him last week.
All right. So that'll take us to our guys we hit on, guys that we thought were values in drafts and ended up overperforming. So I'll kick it to Evan again. Take it away.
Yeah, this one was a toss up for me too because I'm gonna say who I got. I picked here Tank Dell, but it was a toss up between him and Puka Nakua. I went back and looked at our dynasty rankings, and I had Tank Dell and Puka ranked ahead of both you and Mason, and by pretty significant margin. By consensus, Tank Dell I ranked 26 above, and Puka I ranked over 40 above the consensus there. Those were dynasty rankings. I didn't get to my redraft rankings in time here. But I loved Tank Dell. I love his highlights, and he's really kind of just showing that it doesn't matter, like that the gap is not that big for such a small guy. And I'm really happy with that. He's wide receiver 22 at PPR right now, and he was a very, very late pick in a waiver ad in some leagues too. So very, very happy with that.
I was one of the people that doubted him because of his size, and I wrote a whole article on why he is a value for for rookie drafts in general. He was the most productive wide receiver in college for the last 2 seasons, and it wasn't even really that close. But for whatever reason, I was definitely scared off. I didn't know CJ Stroud was going to ball out like he is right now. And then I also thought that he would be a little bit buried, at least for redraft. I didn't think that he was going to come out swinging like he has been. So I thought Robert Woods would hold on to that role a little longer. Noah Brown would be involved kind of like he is. And then that really Nico Collins would be the focal point. But Tank Dell's balling out.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was definitely lower than you, Evan. Snuck in a few shares, but I think Dynasty was kind of where I was looking. I mean, generally speaking, uh, receivers, especially rookie receivers for rookie quarterbacks, do not show out, and normally they're not
Yeah.
super productive.
Like
CJ
Jonathan Mingo.
Stroud's exactly. CJ Stroud is having probably the best rookie season of any quarterback ever. He's on pace for that right now, and Tank's been a huge beneficiary of it.
For sure. For sure. All right, Lee, let's kick it to you for your overperformer, the guy you hit on here.
So this one's a little tough, and it's because of injury, but I still picked him, and I think he's a league winner over this last stretch of the season. Devon Achan. I was super high. I was a lot higher on him than pretty much anybody in most of my other leagues. I have him in over 50%. He's sitting on my IR, waiting to come back and win me a bunch of championships. The guy's electric. The offense was a big reason why. Seeing how
Yeah,
Mostert and Wilson performed last year was a lot of it. But I did watch him quite a bit in college, and he looked like the best player on the field pretty consistently. He didn't have a ton of NFL talent around him at A&M, but he still, I mean, he jumped off. He passed the eye test, if you will, and
right.
three full games, 38 carries so far this season. You guys, without cheating and looking, do you want to guess where he ranks in the running back rankings right now on the
Oh
season?
man, it's tough to say with I know for points per game, he's like top 4 in the league at least, if not higher than that. I'll say that he's still an RB2 right now.
Yeah, he's still an RB2.
I'll go RB 19.
I'll go RB 22.
So you guys are right there around it. He's fringe. He's 24, so the end of the
24.
RB2. But to have only played three full games and have 38 carries, it just
It's
speaks to
insane.
what he did.
It's just
He was
nuts.
he was almost going to be one of my misses, man. Like I just did not see there's too many people in that backfield for me to be confident in him, and he was off my radar because of that. So I missed that.
Yeah, in Dynasty, I was higher on him just because, like you said, he got drafted to the perfect offense for him. And especially with Mostert and Wilson, I think have 1 year left on their deal. But after that, they could easily be cut for very little money if they want to move on. If he got drafted anywhere else, though, he was going to be pretty much off my board. In my dynasty rookie draft, I ended up trading away the 111, where I would have taken Achan if I had the chance to, but I had the opportunity to move up and get the 101, so I packaged the 104 and the 10 or 103 and 111. I needed quarterback bad, so I got Richardson at 101, ended up with JSN at 104, and Stroud dropped to 107. So happy with that. All right. So the guy that I hit on that is I saw as a value, he was drafted. Average draft position was the 712. This guy we talked about earlier today, David Montgomery. Right now in points per game, he is RB9 on the season, averaging 17.1 PPR points per game. Love that. I knew that he would basically assume the Jamal Williams role. I did expect him to get a little bit more involved in the passing game. But right now on the season, and this is with him missing some time, we got 106 attempts, 500 yards, 4.7 per carry, uh, 7 rushing touchdowns, which is really where you're looking for. And overall, it's just a great offense, great offensive line. They're 6th in terms of points per game, and you know that they're going to get fed around the goal line. So love seeing that out of Monty. Got him in so many leagues.
We'll bookmark this and come back to it because I still think that he's on the downturn. But
even if Gibbs takes over the backfield, Gibbs isn't gonna get the majority of the goal line work.
Yeah, maybe. I don't. Yeah, maybe. But
I mean, hey, he's RB9 on the season right now. There's no disputing that he's better than
I know, but Gibbs was injured for a lot of the season so far too. So I don't know. Not a lot, but a good chunk. Good chunk.
Evan, would you take him sooner than the 712? Why are you thinking about this?
Probably because I traded him away to you, and I don't want to admit defeat on it yet.
That's what it is, isn't it?
No,
real quick.
I still
real
think
quick behind the scenes here. I like an idiot on my part, to be honest. I was so confident with them having Swift and signing Montgomery that there was no chance that they would draft a running back. So I traded for Montgomery the night of the draft, about 2 hours before it happened. Watching the draft with all my buddies. They draft Gibbs. I lose my full mind. I'm like, oh, I'm screwed. I traded 2 seconds for this guy. I don't know what I'm gonna do. But yep. All part of the story now.
I was definitely going to ask for the compensation, but you said 2 seconds. I don't hate that, even knowing the Gibbs, because they did give him a pretty decent contract. He's still young, with 26, I believe.
Yeah.
He's a guy that produced, when he was with the Bears. Injuries is a worry. Gibbs is a worry. That kind of kept me away from him. I made a trade that I'm super happy with. Dynasty, traded away Aaron Jones in a second for Monty in a first, about a week before the season. I do have a lot of Gibbs as well, but the offense looks like it can sustain both. I don't think it's just a 1 year thing. I think you can get another year or two of value from Monty as well. Just talking Dynasty.
Yeah, I love that. I love that trade for you, man. That was great.
Absolutely. So we are running out of time here. Boys, what do you think? You want to just list off the players that we missed on that are overperforming, or do we want to do a little short, like a little YouTube short here?
Let's just list them off real quick.
All right. I'll just kick it off then. DeAndre Swift, I think we were all scared away by the injury risk. And on top of it, Philly did not pass to their running back at all last season. And they also are an RBC usually, but Swift's killing it.
Yeah, he is. I hit that one. I hit on that one.
Oh, very nice.
But Kyron I missed on. I didn't get any shares of Kyron.
We all missed
on not some people. Some people actually drafted him pretty higher than his ADP too, like Jeff, our friend Jeff over there. But yeah, he was a big miss for me. What about you, Lee?
Rashad White, and I still don't believe in the talent, but he has taken that volume and he has just ran with it. He's been super impressive, especially the last few weeks. I didn't really believe in the offense either, but Baker has been serviceable, and Mike Evans and Rashad White. I would even throw in Mike Evans as well. I thought he was pretty close to being done, but Buccaneers offense has
Complete
been impressive.
agreement. Yeah,
Mhm.
complete agreement. Didn't think
I
Baker was going to
drafted
have.
Mike Evans ahead of ADP this year. I like Mike Evans still.
Well, good for you, Evan.
So not a complete agreement. No, not everybody in this little circle here, but
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this week. Good luck in your week 11 performances. Check out Lee's waiver wire video if you haven't already. Some of these guys might still be waiting for you guys on the free agent list. So good video, you guys. Take it easy, y'all.
doses.
Awesome.